So today we will discuss on Azure DNS. So first of all, we need to understand what is DNS. DNS is used for converting your domain name to IP address because uh, although we have the IP address for communication, but it is not simple to means remember IP addresses. So it is much simpler to use the name instead of IP address. So DNS is used to convert FQDN into IP address so that uh, means system can recognize at which IP it needs to reach. So Azure DNS is of two types: public DNS services and private DNS. So public DNS, if you want to understand public DNS is services resolves name and IP addresses for resources and services accessible over the internet, such as web server. And you can create address records manually with relevant zones. The records most frequently used will be uh, here I can mention host record are A for IPv4 and 4 times A for IPv6, or we can use the alias record CNAME for the public DNS. Now let me open PAND. So what are the consideration for Azure DNS, public DNS? So what are the considerations? So before defining any public DNS, there are some consideration we need to remember. First of all, the name of the zone must be unique. Zone name must be unique, okay, within the resource group, and the zone must not exist already. Okay, I am noting it down. So you please remember this within the resource group. Okay, next one. Next one is the same zone name can be reused in the different resource group or different Azure subscription. Okay, same name can be used in different RG or subscription. Right? Now, third one is where multiple zones share the same name. Each instance is assigned different name server address. Okay, assign different name server. Okay. Fourth one is root or parent domain name. Domain is registered at the registrar and pointed to Azure name server. So I am noting it down. Why? Because you can make a note. Otherwise, we know that it, gradually we can forget it. So if you have notes, then it will help in future whenever you are going to revise these chapters. Okay. Fifth consideration is child domains are registered in Azure DNS directory. Okay. So these are the point we need to remember. Now going to private DNS services. So what is private DNS services? Private DNS services resolve name and IP address for the resources and services. When resources are deployed in virtual network and need to resolve domain names to internal IP addresses, they can use uh, multiple methods. There are three methods. One is Azure DNS private zone. One is Azure DNS private zone. Second one is Azure provided name resolution. Third one is name resolution that uses your own DNS server. Okay. So these are associated with virtual network. So your name resolution might go beyond the features provided by Azure. For example, you might need to use Microsoft Windows Server Active Directory domain, resolve DNS name between virtual networks. To cover this scenario, Azure provides the ability for you to use your own DNS server. So you need to remember one more thing, that whenever we are talking about private DNS, uh, whenever we are talking about private DNS, and it is going to virtual network, and we need to remember what virtual IP Azure is provide whenever we are using private DNS. What is the virtual IP? It is 168.63.129.16. We need to remember this. So whenever DNS server within Azure network can forward DNS queries to recursive resolver in Azure. So this enables you to resolve host name within that virtual network. For example, a domain controller running in Azure can respond to DNS query for its domain and forward all other queries to Azure. So DNS forwarding enables DNS resolution between virtual networks and allow on-premise machines to resolve Azure provided host name, right? So there is also internal DNS. So what is internal DNS? Internal DNS defines a namespace like internal.cloudapp.net. Okay, so internal DNS. Internal DNS, what is the naming convention? Internal.cloudapp.net. This is the recognition for the internal DNS. You can see dot internal will be there if we are searching for the internal DNS. And what are the limitation? Internal DNS can't resolve across different VNets, and its can't internal DNS limitation. Another limitation is registers resource name, not guest OS name. Does not allow manual record creation. So it is about internal DNS. So guys, it's all about today's session, and hope all are good and enjoying. So meet you tomorrow again. Thanks all of you. Hare Krishna.